Okay, so during this webinar, I will show you all the different elements you should take into account and configure before actually creating projects in Wordbee Translator to ensure that everything runs smoothly. Because there is not one way of using Wordbee. It is a very flexible solution. So you should first really think of what you expect to do with it. Okay, so I'm going to connect to my Wordbee platform as the administrator. Okay, so here I've reached the home page. Okay, and as you may know, with Wordbee, you are able to manage your projects, your jobs, meaning the different tasks that will need to be completed within project. Okay, so it can be a translation job, a revision job, anything. Okay, there's really a large list of tasks available. You will be able to manage your client's information. Okay, so you can assign them different profiles. Okay, so you can just assign them the basic external client profile, or if you want them, or if they want, okay, to be involved in the translation process, if they want to be able to revise a translation, for instance, you will need to create them a login and select the profile client and worker. Okay, so you can manage here your client's information. In the suppliers page, you will be able to manage your suppliers information and again assign them a profile. Okay, so again, we have multiple profiles available. You are able to manage your resources with Wordbee Translator. So what we mean by resources? Well, when you have first your Wordbee platform, you have no resources basically. So what you can do if you have translation memories or glossaries that you can upload, well then, I will really invite you to upload them by clicking Add New, Import New Translation Memory or Terminology Database from File, so that you can directly, with your first projects, reuse these memories, okay, to pre-translate. You can see also project memories here. Well, the project memories, they are automatically created whenever a project is created in Wordbee Translator. Because as you know, there is the integrated CAT tool, and whenever you translate online with Wordbee CAT tool, a project memory is automatically created and filled in real time with the translations. Okay, and you can see here resource groups. Well, actually, it is really interesting. And here you should think in advance on how you plan on working with the solution. You can organize things by client. Okay, create a resource group per client, like I've done here with my client Jerry. If I open it, I have his master TM and his glossary. Okay, I can of course add more, but for this particular client, I just have 2 resources. So as I said, you can organize resources by client. You can also organize resources by domain if you're working by domain. Okay, so create a resource group, legal resources, technical resources, etc. You can organize resources by product also. Okay, all the resources for product A, product B, product C. And it's the same thing when working on projects. Okay, you can create a project for a client, or you can create a project and, well, we'll say this later. I don't want to give you too many information at the time, we'll see the projects later on. And under the My Company tab here, open the My Companies page. Here you will manage your company's information. Under People and Logins, you will manage the in-house workers. Or you can have in-house clients, in-house managers, the administrator of the platform, but also in-house workers, for instance. You can manage also the price list that will apply to your clients. Okay, so the idea is to create one standard price list. Okay, and whenever you will click on Add New to add a new price list, it will be based on the standard price list. You can click on Save to here add more tasks, for instance, or modify the prices per word. Okay, so by default, each price list will apply to all clients, like you can see here, and you can decide that this new price list 1, I want it to apply to just a specific client. Okay, I want it to apply, well, I want that when I select ABC company for a project, so my client ABC, I want this price list to be proposed to me. Okay. For instance, I'm just giving you general overview of the possibilities here. Okay. So as you've seen, you can manage projects, jobs, client and suppliers information, your linguistic resources, and you are also able to manage your invoices in the system. Okay, but maybe you do not want to manage your invoices in the system. It's really something you should think in advance. So now I want to give a special focus on the elements that you should configure before creating projects on the system. Okay, so when you want to configure the Wordbee platform, it's always under the settings page. Okay, so you can click on settings, and the first element you see, well, maybe not the most important, but it's again really important, the look and feel, so that when you connect to your Wordbee platform, you really connect to your own workspace. Okay, so you can click on edit. The edit button is always at the upper right hand corner, okay, of each page. Here you can enter your company URL so that if you click on your logo, you are automatically redirected to your website. So again, it's important. You can enter here your company email. Okay, so like here I can enter, for instance, info@wordbee.com. You can enter here an RSS feed title. Okay, for instance, RSS feed description, and so on. Here you will be able to change the logo. Okay, like right now it is the Wordbee logo. It's important to put your company's logo, for instance. And here you can change the background color of the platform. Well, let's say I want it a little yellow. I'll click on apply. You can decide to display the default Wordbee help pages or hide them. Okay, or if you have a custom URL for the help, you can also enter it here. Regarding the login page, here you can enter a message that will be displayed whenever a supplier, in-house, or anyone that will connect to your platform. Everyone that has an access to your platform will see this message. So it's important that it gives an information on the company. Okay, like here, my company it is Get Translations. Okay, and you can add a welcome message. So when they connect, a welcome message appears. So you can decide, okay, I do not want a welcome message to appear, or you can enter a message here. And here, if you want to display or hide the Wordbee newsfeed. Okay, so the look and feel is important. So we can click on Save. And get back to the settings page. Now, before creating projects, what you can do is clicking here. You see languages, configure. Because by default, when you will create a project, for instance, you will see all the list of available languages in the system, but maybe you do not need all these languages. I mean, you do not create translation projects, for instance, from English to Albanian. Okay, so the Albanian language is not relevant to you. So what you can do is to edit this list so that every time you create a project, or if you have the client portal, okay, when your client they place an order, okay, maybe you do not perform all these languages, so they shouldn't be able to select a language you do not do. Okay, so I guess you can deselect all and select only the languages you can perform, okay, to reduce the list again. Same thing for the task categories. So the task categories, it corresponds actually to the jobs. Okay, so you can see here task categories. You can click on configure, and here you can enable the tasks that you can perform or your suppliers can perform. Okay, so whenever you create a project, you will be able to select these tasks that are in green. Okay, and you can enable or disable some tasks. Maybe I don't want to create subtitling jobs, so it's not relevant for me that this task appears when I create project because I'm never gonna select it. So I can disable. Okay, and on the contrary, my company does interpretation. So I want to enable this task. So I click on enable, and you can sort the task, because for instance you want it to appear, well, it's not relevant in a translation project, but like here, for instance, translation and then the revision should appear after translation. Because when you will create a project, a workflow, okay, you will say, okay, first I want a translation, in a second step I want a revision, and finally I want the client to proofread. So here they should be sorted properly. Okay, so you can see the list of tasks is large. Okay, but you can at any moment create a task by clicking here on add new task. You can give it a name, a code if you need, and sort it. And if the task refers to the source document, maybe editing the source document, okay, before doing an actual translation, you should click on work refers to preparing source text. or document only. Okay. Now if we get back on the settings page, another element you can configure and should configure is the translation domains. Well, actually, you will configure the translations domains if you plan on organizing your resources by domains. Okay, because we'll see when creating a project, you are able to select the domain so that Wordbee, when selecting the resources of the project, will automatically select the relevant resources. But if you organize your resources by client, then the configuration of the domain is not really relevant. Okay, so here you can enter a folder, change the name, okay, add a domain as you want. Delete also the domain. It's really up to you. It's completely configurable. Okay, and this list of domain will be available in the resources. If I open the resources page in another tab. So if you plan on organizing them by domain, well then, like this translation memory, I can click on edit. Oh well, it has a domain already, computer science website. Okay, if I select another resource, the guide. Oh, it has a domain already also. Well, the list of domain will be available here when selecting a domain for a resource, again, if you organize your resources by domain. And also, the list will appear when creating a project. Like here, let's say, creating a standard project, for instance. Oh, I'm sorry for my internet connection is a bit slow. So here, remember, I said that you should configure the list of languages so that, okay, when you select a source language, not the whole list of languages available on the system appear. Same thing for the target languages. If you configure your languages, only your list will appear here. And same thing for the domains. Okay, here is the whole list. So it's important to configure this list so that it matches your domains. Okay? And the tasks, as I told you, here appears the whole list of tasks that I have enabled. Okay, and at any moment I can enable a new one or disable one. And they are sorted as they are sorted in the settings page under task categories. So it's really important to well sort in them. Now we get back on the settings page. Another element that it is very important to configure before creating a project is a word count profile. So you should create at least one word count profile. So you can click on configure. Here you can see that I have different word count profiles, and again it will depend on how you want to organize your platform. If it is per client, then you can create one one word count profile, per client. Or if it is by domain, create a word count profile per domain, etc. If it's by product, create one word count profile per product. So you can click on Add New, and here configure the word count profile. Okay, decide of the matching intervals, and also the pre-translations, okay, from the memories, etc. So here you really create your word count profile, so that when you will create a project, you will just have to select your configuration. So again, the idea is really to configure things in advance so that when you create a project, it really goes fast. You don't have to think. You have already configured everything. Okay, so this is for the word count profile, very important element. The languages. And if you have another element, if you want to machine translate documents to create post-editing jobs, okay, it's a possibility in Wordbee. Well, in that case, you should configure a machine translation system, at least one. So here you will do this in the settings page, click on configure next to machine translation systems, and here you will enable, as I said, at least one machine translation. And to do this, you should buy an API key, okay, to Google or Microsoft or Reverso, for instance. Because if I select Google, for instance, and I click on enable, here Wordbee asks me for the Google API key. Well, and you have instructions on how can you obtain one API key. Well, actually, it's really simple. You should just connect to Google Translate or Microsoft Translate. And I know that there are free versions, okay? You can have free keys. And you'll just have to enter the key here. And this way, Google Translate will be enabled and you'll be able to pre-translate documents and create post-editing jobs. Now we get back to the settings page. So you can configure machine translation. You should also create in advance a QA profile. This is really important also. Well, I said one QA profile, but you can create more. And as I always suggest, you should create one profile for the translators and one profile for the revisers or proofreaders, for instance, so that when the supplier will connect, I will show you. I will open a project like this test project, for instance. Well, no, I'm sorry. I thought it was this project, and it's another one. Okay, so here I will connect as project manager to the translation interface, just to show you what the translator or reviser can see. Well, to run a QA check, the translator will click on check and then on new run advanced QA. And if you have created a profile, a QA profile, you will be able to select it here directly. So you can leave in the instructions of the job, please select a QA profile, translator profile, and click on OK, and Now the system will check, well, here there are no problems found. But you see, this way you are sure that all the elements you want to be checked in the translation are checked. Okay, you create a QA profile, and then the translator or the revisor just has to select it, nothing more. So we can have a look at all the different elements that you can enable or disable. Well, again, I've said you can create a profile per user, but you can create a profile per client or per, let's say, languages. Maybe you can create a QA profile for Asian languages and another QA for Latin languages. It's another possibility. So again, everything's possible. You should just think of the best way for you to work with the system. So here you can see all the different elements you can enable or disable and the different actions. Okay, like if I take character classes, for instance. Oh, okay. I can say, okay, if it's invalid translations, okay, if there is a problem of character classes, I want the status of the segment to be red, okay, or I can say, okay, leave status unchanged, and I want the system to place a red bookmark, okay, on the segment for which there is a problem. And if the translator, okay, does a new QA check and he has well corrected the problem, then maybe you want, okay, leave the status unchanged and place a blue bookmark instead. Otherwise, if it does again a new QA, there was always going to be the red bookmark. Okay. So again, you should just think of the best way for you and your translators to work. So I've spoken of the QA profile. And another element that is important really to configure before you create projects, but it, oh well, where it is. Okay, it is the client portal. But as you know, client portal is an option. So of course, if you don't have it, well then you don't need to configure it. But if you have the client portal, it's really important to configure it. Okay, as you can see, well, the classic order form is to be displayed on your website. It is for your new clients you do not know already, so for whom you cannot create a login, okay, and access because of they don't have, you do not know them. Okay, so if I click on this link, you can see how my classic order form looks. Okay, and as I try to explain, when you have the client portal, you can create a login for a client, and this way it will be able to connect to his workspace, because actually the client portal is a workspace where the client will be able to place orders and also follow the work status of his projects, etc. It will be able also to have an overview of all his invoices, okay, of the projects he has requested. So just to give you an overview, it looks like this. Oh, sorry, I have disabled the access for my client, so I cannot connect. Sorry about this. Just make sure to enable it. Okay, so I reached the client's page. For my client Jerry, well, it's enabled. Maybe I have entered the wrong password. I'm gonna try again. Sorry about this. Okay, now it works. Perfect. I typed the wrong password. That's why. So you see, this is the client portal. This is actually a workspace for your client. Well, for this particular client, I've not allowed him to place orders. It's just a client who wants to be involved in his project, okay, to receive revision jobs. So here actually he's able to see his jobs, and he's notified by email whenever I have sent him a new job. I don't know if he has a job in standard. Okay, so you understand the principle. You can really customize things. So as I said, you can allow your client to place an order or just has access to his jobs. Everything is possible. Again, you just need to think of the easiest way for you to work, okay, and the most efficient way of working. And when you know, sorry, when you know what you want, you can really easily configure your Wordbee platform. Actually, I wanted to connect as a client to show you the new order form, because you can customize the classic order form I presented to you. And when you give an access to your client to the client portal, you can also create customized order forms, okay, that the client will find when he connects. So for the new order form, it's under client portal. So here, as I said, for the classic order form, you can customize the languages and properties. I mean, the different, you can customize the languages that appear, okay? So if you cannot perform a translation from Afrikaans to a can, well, maybe just disable these languages, okay? So same thing as for the platform. And here, the target languages also, and the tasks also, okay, that you want to display to the client, okay, because maybe you do not perform post editing. So this way, this task should not be available to the client, okay, to the classic order form. Same thing actually for the new order form. You can customize it, but you can really customize it to, well, here I have created one order form configuration for each one of my client. Okay, so this is possible with the new order form, because maybe you know that one of your client, he wants, well, when I speak about clients, it can be internal clients. Maybe you're a company, okay, and your clients are in different departments. Okay, the legal department, the technical department, and the administrative department. Okay, so for these departments, you can create a special order form. because you know that they always request the same languages. And the idea is that whenever these clients, okay, like if I take the example of the legal department, let's say, I have created a special configuration for them. So whenever they will place an order, the system with the new order form will pre-translate from the memories of this client. Okay, so it's really, again, important to create resource groups because we will select resource groups, okay, to pre-translate. So if the legal department places an order, it will be better that I had created a resource group maybe called legal, okay, with all my legal translation memories. Okay, so I hope that you now understand better the way the system works. Well, this is it for my presentation. I really wanted to point out all the different elements you should focus on, so that when you have configured all the elements that I mentioned, you should really work faster. Okay, and the last thing I'd like to mention is, well, if you prefer to work with coded or standard projects. So you know there are the two different type of projects available in Wordbee. So standard is a more manual project, I would say, even if now you can automate the workflow with the dependencies. Well, we generally use more a standard project for non-dynamic content. You know, content that you will translate once, for instance, and we generally use more coded for, well, coded stands for continuous and dynamic translation. It is the project automation available in Wordbee, and you will actually create coded projects for dynamic content. Okay, like a catalog, for instance, you know that you will have to translate it once a year or multiple times a year. So by creating a coded project, you set up a workflow. So again, you configure a workflow, and whenever a new version will appear, you just have to upload this new version and it will be pre-translated from the earlier one. Okay, it's also possible in standard. It's just I would say you can go faster with coded. And if you've already set up the workflow, then you don't have to touch anything. Okay, so if you have set up a workflow with a translation followed by a revision job, well, the translation will start, and whenever it will be completed by the suppliers, the revision job will be kicked off automatically. Okay, so you can really go faster with project automation. What you can do also is to create a coded project per client. Okay, so you create coded project for one of your client because you know that for this person you will always use the same workflow. Like, for example, a translation followed by a revision. Okay, and you select in this project. Let me open a project like this one, for instance. So you will decide of the workflow. Okay, here a translation followed by a revision, and it is a job opening. So the translation job is automatically sent to a group of translators. Okay, and the first one who accepts the job gets it, and whenever the supplier will have finished his translation, well, the revision will be kicked off automatically. Okay, and you can select under the resources tab of the project all the resources of the client. Okay, so that whenever you upload a new document to translate, it is automatically pre-translated from his or her memories, okay, the memories of the client. And because he always uses the same workflow, you have configured it once. So this is it for my webinar. I hope that you have questions. I'm going to open the question box. And again, if you have questions afterwards, do not hesitate to send them to me via email. You'll find my email in the email you will receive with the recording of the session, or in the confirmation email you've received previously when you registered. So this webinar was really theoretical, okay? It was just to point out the elements you should focus on in order to make sure to work efficiently with the system. I regularly organize webinars as the one I organized last month about specific elements like the QA, how to well configure it, the client portal also. I've done one recently on how to configure the new order form, mainly because the classic order form is really, well, you can configure it very quickly. But the new order form, I mean, creating a configuration for each client, it can take some time, but when it's done, it is done. Okay, you should really think about it. And sure that soon I organize a new webinar about how to create workflows, for instance. So should really visit our website homepage where all our webinars are displayed. Well, I'm not receiving any questions, so I'm gonna wait one more minute. And if you've no question, then I will end the session. Again, if you want to ask questions, you should use the question box or the chat box. It's no problem for me. Oh, you should open it. I've received a question. So how do you, oh, sorry, it has disappeared. How do you display the blue blocks with the checklist? Well, this blue box, I guess it's the one you're referring to. Well, this blue box appears when you mark a project as completed. Okay, like here you can see the project, my status project is completed. So the system asks you to, if you want to consolidate the project memory with a master memory, so that when it's consolidated, you can delete the project. You are sure that the translation, okay, the project memory is saved because it has been consolidated. Because the problem is that the project memory is related to the project, so that if you delete the project, you will delete also the project memory. So before deleting a project, you should make sure to consolidate the project memory with a master memory, another translation memory. Are there any further questions? Well, there are no more questions. I'd like to thank you everyone for following this webinar. And again, if you have questions afterwards, do not hesitate to send them to me. I'd be really happy to help you. Have a great evening. Goodbye.